What is up, guys? Evan Aldo here. So this is the day after the little fiasco between Elon Musk and Trump. Your typical little drama. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the Anthony Scaramucci thing in Trump's first term. So you definitely see this stuff a lot. And I mean, there's the view that maybe it's all planned. It's one of those negotiation tactics and art of the deal. You could argue, when Elon dropped the Epstein bomb, that's like where it's too far. There's no way that was, kind of orchestrated, kind of, made up. But then again, everyone kind of would have inferred that. But I don't know. You don't want your name, obviously, if you're Trump, you don't really want your name already associated with it. But then again, it depends. Everybody's already kind of on that ballpark. And then, there's always the irony and hypocrisy in politics where it's like, if you're, Elon's, I mean, obviously, other than the EV mandate, that's the view that all he cares about, but he's claiming it's not the EV mandate that they're taking away, is why he's mad. It's because it's just out of control spending. So then you're saying that Elon's too conservative. So according to that, Elon's being too conservative and Trump's being too liberal. It's a little bit of the irony of politics. And then, but I mean, you look through, you think about these type of things and you look through history, you look for normally what happens, as a kind of towards, what you could argue is the final stages of an empire. If you, listen to Ray Dalio, read his book on, changing world order, you're not going to get that debt down. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to get that debt down. You could do well in the next, for Trump's second term, next few years, end of the decade, and then usually history would tell us that you're going to see another recession, probably in the early 2030s, late 2020s, maybe, like I always talk about, it happens every, 8 to 12 years, a big crash. So 2020 was the last one. It was COVID. And then, so your range would be between 2028 and 2032, which would be your second one, probably would be, that big reset. And that would probably be a pretty big crash for Bitcoin as well. If you follow kind of 20-year theory, no asset, like I mentioned a lot, no asset really does incredibly well for a full 30 years straight. It's usually just a 20 years period straight. I'm sure you could find exceptions to that, but there's not too many. There's definitely not too many there. So that's kind of the pattern we look at. And yeah, I mean, the drama, all that stuff, kind of feel like it's real, but kind of not. And you get even more hypocrisy. I don't know why this comes to mind, but of all people, I was watching a video they were asking AOC about, and AOC's like, oh, the girls were arguing. And it's just like, your whole platform is like, not like misgendering people and not like, it's just, I just love the hypocrisy of politics. Like, what I mean? It's just entertaining. Like, it's the Hollywood for ugly people aspect of it. Oh man, it's just like the girls were fighting. Like your whole platform is like, supposed to be completely against, making jokes like that, but it's just so funny. And it even kind of like puts, because if you call them women, it's kind of like putting, because you're already putting that. I find it so funny. It's like being sexist against your own gender. I just love the hypocrisy of it. But you kind of look at those things. But in terms of what you'll see kind of for crypto here, I mean, the last thing I'll see is like the dream of actually getting that spending down. And I mean, you really look at like platform of Trump. I mean, it's center right, pretty centered. Like, it's not that freaking conservative. Like, it's just trying to, you're never gonna, like I mentioned, I'm probably repeating too much, but I kind of, as I said, that debt's never gonna come down significantly. Maybe a little bit in the next 4 years in this term, and then everything resets. Well, assuming you don't have recessions, assuming you don't have economic downturn, which you will inevitably, then you may reset that, but that's not gonna happen. So yeah, that's what you just gotta wait for. Got that couple more years, 2028 to 2032 is probably the next period. We're going to see that reset, that crash. So yeah. And the same for, housing market, all that, stock market, Bitcoin as well. And probably that general 8 to 10 year kind of bear market where not too much happens for that, that period. What may do well in that decade, history would tell you probably gold and probably the bond market. So yeah. Now, what can happen in the more short term here? Bitcoin, I still think, we came down a little bit out of this fear, all of this drama. But you're jumping back up. Looks good in the technical, especially 12 hour, 16 hour on Bitcoin. might be able to hit 120 by the end of the month. ERC20 tokens still look pretty damn good. Obviously, the granddaddy of all that, Ethereum, looks pretty good as well. So I do think that can, hit that 3,000, 3,200 range by the end of the month as well. We're still on it, and we're still on this bull run. And I think we can, a little bit of fear, but I think we should be able to keep going into the end of the year. And yeah, I mean, you're probably going to keep doing that and follow what we've done. And then 2026 will probably be your typical bear market. I mean, I don't think you're there for a big crash yet. You could, you definitely could. But I mean, since that that would probably be the real minimum. That's like hitting it early. If you see like a real big recession crash in 26, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to be able to kick the curb down the road a little bit more, at least 28 to 2032. In your 4-year cycle, it'd probably be 2030 would be the bad year. I think it would be unlikely that you'd see. It's too obvious to see the crash in like either 2028 or 2029, just because like exact 100-year anniversary of Great Depression, that's too obvious. And then exact 20-year anniversary of the second worst, crash, like Great Financial Crisis, a little bit too obvious. Probably either 26, 27, or all the way until 2030. Probably 2030 in my opinion, but we'll see, especially with Trump. And I think they'll be able to, keep things. I mean, the other thing too is like the EV mandate too, like that would be, the reason you don't want that is because that's pushing automation quicker. That's like gig economy is really keeping those unemployment numbers down. That's really keeping things going, that gig economy. Once you have that, and you're already seeing it, especially, if you've been to Brickell, Miami, they're doing some deliveries with the robot. I've ordered stuff in Uber Eats and the little robot comes and delivers it for you. And I put a tip in ahead of time, and I think I could have changed the tip. I waited too long, but I ended up tipping a robot. So, that's who you're going to be paying. That's who's stealing your money. Damn robot. So, I think they want to kick that can down the road, but it's going to be 4 or 5 years. I mean, the automation taking away so many, that's going to be probably the next recession. That combined with a lot of consumer debt people have talked about, but there's always, that's kind of always been the case, I think, mainly automation. Anyway, guys, I think we're going to keep going. I got some new trades. If you guys want to check out the Discord, I think I always put the link down below. I'm going to do a live stream probably as soon as I walk home. I got to play, I don't know what time it is, but I got to live stream and then play some golf with some people out later. So really enjoying this New England summer. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. See you guys soon. Bye.